Alright, can you guys hear me? I think I've sent out all the alerts and announcements, the rallying cries. We're gonna get everyone we're gonna get at this rate. So, for those of you that were hoping we'd start a while ago, apologies that this is running a bit later. I ran a poll to see what time worked better, and this time slot just barely edged out the previous one. So we're going to try this, subject to change. It's all about the whims of the people. Alright. So the first thing we're going to do today, before we plunge too far into ideas, and people can start putting ideas out there. There's no such thing as having too many ideas stored in chat. But I'm gonna try something and talk about, the process we go through. So we've set up this structure of runes as upgrades, and I think for the most part I'm pretty happy with it. This is definitely functional. This works a lot like instant reactions do, and I think that's pretty good. However, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try another. Sorry, my mic is probably way off. Can you guys actually even hear me? I realized that my mic was still pushed back, so I don't know what it was picking up there. Great. Okay, maybe this is better. Maybe it's not. I don't know how mics work. I just assume that if they're nearby, you guys can hear things. There was very little rhyme or reason to how I bought this. It came with a fancy stand that makes me look all nice and professional. That's what I was going for. I was glad to have you, Zip. I'm looking forward to the new video. You said what that was going to be about, right? I think I saw it on Twitter. I'll look forward to that one. So, one thing I'm going to try here, as I said, we're going to try to redesign how runes work a little bit. And this isn't because we're unhappy with how runes work, but because part of designing anything is to design a bunch of things, and then see which version you like. It's just kind of, we want to kind of validate our design to see if there's another kind of idea that I came up with, and I'm thinking that I want to try it out, and then we're going to do just that. We're going to try it out, and then if we like it, we'll keep it, and if we don't like it, we'll toss it. And I think that's kind of, as I said, I promised you guys some insight into how I design, and for the better or the worse, this is going to be it. Most of the things I ever make are things that I promptly then scrape up with a shovel and drop into the closest trash can. So what we're going to do is not fundamentally change too much. But we're going to change the structure of runes a little bit. Let's see if we can come up with table. Class table. Class block. So we don't actually want a class block, but we want the wide partitioner. Basically, all that was because I didn't remember what the class wide was, which, I probably should, but here we are. So what we're going to try is rune name, passive, attack modifier, flare effect. So I don't really know what I'm doing here. This is kind of more of an exploratory phase, I guess, but I'm struggling to talk and type at the same time, which is always a major flaw for someone that wants to stream the process of them typing. But what we're going to try to do is, instead of having each rune be an upgrade, we're going to have them each be an upgrade in the table. It's very different, you see. No, but I mean, so what I want to do is I want to try to combine a couple different runes into kind of a rune that has different effects. So that to say that the same runes will be used by both the people that are using them to cast and to attack with. Rather than having runes that are caster runes that have a cast effect, and runes that are melee runes that have a melee effect, what I want to do is I want to take those runes and combine them into one rune that has both a cast and a melee effect. So if we take our most basic rune, not quite. You'll see in a second here. So like Rune of Fire, right? Passive effect makes attacks fire damage. Active attack modifier, Firebolt. Flare adds fire damage. And then we could do another modifier up here like Manifest. I think I stole it from Shaman, so we probably want to rename that, but whatever. Casts Create Bonfire. So basically what we're doing here, or at least what we're considering, is each rune will have a handful of powers that can be used, and then we don't have to distinguish. If you have a Rune of Fire, we don't just say that you can't cast Create Bonfire or Firebolt with it, but your specialization for doing such things might be different. So I think this is something worth digging into a little bit, but we're gonna have to work on it still. And this might be something I tackle a little bit off stream, depending on if I kind of run into a block. Hey, Duck. You could use this for a bunch of artifacts. I mean, of course, you can use anything for anything. There's never going to be a limit to how much any design can be changed or optimized. But because of the nature of runes, I kind of felt that I wanted to make more runes, but I also kind of felt that we were starting to clutter the upgrades. This is a bit of a problem with instant reactions, but I don't think that it's that bad a problem with instant reactions yet. But the thing is, we already have as many runes as we have instant reactions, right? And those runes are just the beginning. So if I wanted to add more runes, suddenly we'd be getting a very cluttered upgrade tree. So then, for example, we could do Rune of Gravity makes bigger impact than does our something here. I think our slow effect, area slowdown, area knockdown, and then maybe like fling. Now fling is obviously too powerful to add in as just a manifestation that would be unlimited. I think the problem is that even if the runesmith picks the rune upgrade, there is limited by the number of runes they get. Even if it's limited by the... Right. So, I mean, this isn't supposed to change the balance of a rune. These will make runes slightly stronger because you'll get the passive effect of them and the attack effect, but you won't really get a lot of benefit from that. Because ultimately, if you think about it, you are currently a mad class, which means that you're not going to have a great melee attack modifier and a great spell attack modifier unless you spend a feat for a popular non-controversial feat for like Magic Striker or something. A wonderful feat that everyone loves. But I think that's fine, right? If you spend more investment to get whatever you want as single attribute dependent, then you're already investing your power into being good at both of them. But I kind of like the idea of, say you have a rune of fire on your sword, and you point that and you cast Firebolt or create Bonfire with it. Fling is actually no, not quite. That Catapult is a more balanced version of this. So yeah, let's write in Catapult. Fling was a spell I created from a series of gravity spells that let you throw a person. It was like Catapult for a person, though it didn't fling them nearly as far. But this brings into a new idea of ways to then power up. Yeah, the exact same place Fall came from. Fall is the one that kind of made it big from that document. Fall took on a life of its own. Right, the words here are currently terrible. We're still thinking about what we're going to do. Right now we're just kind of discussing, does this model work? And I think it does. I think this will give us more, not just more kind of space to make runes, but also I want the runes to work logically better. I was actually working on another class or another document. Zip will know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to announce anything more than that. That dealt with runes is kind of making me think about all of this a lot more. Which is kind of where I came up with this idea. But we're going to see if we can try to apply a more kind of modular grid-like approach to runes, so that runic power feels like a power set almost, rather than a specific thing that rune does. So you'll have the base power of that rune that tells you that what kind of thing it affects, like fire or gravity, and then we're going to have a series of modifiers that it applies. The passive modifier, and then the flare, attack, manifest, whatever other kind of verb action modifiers you can think of. Fling, right now, I don't see any reason to invest in... Like, right now, I don't see... Yes. So Dire Avenger, we don't necessarily want to change the functionality we came up with previously. If the melee rune fighter in his heavy armor with his heavy weapon doesn't want to add more int to cast firebolts better, that's fine. We still want him to be good at hitting things and doing extra fire damage. We just want that rune to have a more logical impact in the world than it currently does. Yeah, closer to the discipline system, and that's what might get us into trouble. If this starts becoming the discipline system, obviously that's too complicated for a subclass, and we have to hit the brakes, slow down, and probably scrap the idea. It really depends on how much we can kind of make a modular, interesting, but complicated, Also, that would replace... So I think the runes would still be upgrades. You'd get a handful, you get some for free, and you could pick more with upgrades. I think that's still fine. And then rune of... So time, gravity, fire, power. What else did we have? So we don't want to mess with the glyphs, right? The glyphs are fine. And then we'll consider about tackling the greater runes in a second. But for now, vision. Yeah, so with this kind of approach, I think we'd want to break out the elemental power into lightning, cold, or ice. So it is to reduce the number of runes to an extent, but the thing is, previously, remember, we have Rune of Elemental Power and Rune of Conflagration. If we also wanted a rune of whatever this Ice and Lightning runes are going to do, we'd have to make 4 or 5 more runes over here to do that. So it's not that it's going to be less runes than we already have, but it's going to be a similar number of runes to what we have now with more effects. I don't think we want to make this all the elements again, because we want to be able to pencil in spells like Firebolt here, rather than trying to make a new cantrip-like attack. With, we don't want to pull in the whole psychokinetic discipline. Power, protection. Rune of Armor, we'll come back to this. I think I have an idea here. Don't know if we need this specific rune. Speed will be folded into time. Alright. So then we put the flare effect at the end. So, attack. So attack will always be a spell attack roll, or something similar to that, I think. Manifest. Good point. Manifest will be creating a spot of this effect in the world somehow. And then we want some sort of... I don't know what this one's called yet, but defend. One second while I realign all of these. So I don't know if we're going to keep with the defend one. Maybe we'll call that like support or something. We just want some other effect in there that we can put kind of generic things under. So in this case, converts damage to fire. Firebolt. Create bonfire. Fire resistance, maybe. Grants fire resistance. Increases damage by 1d8 fire. Right. So gravity we think would be, we don't know what this is yet, but attack we do maybe like ranged shove, manifest, ranged slow, distort shot, and then area knockdown. Oh, look at you bringing out fancy words here. Onslaught, evoke, bulwark. Those are definitely more evocative words. The only one that I don't think quite fits is onslaught. It's definitely an evocative word, but I think that's more specific than we're going for, maybe. I think evoke sort of fits for both attack and manifest here. Assault, offense. So don't read quite. Project. Maybe project works. You're kind of flinging it out there. So do these ones all make sense to you guys? We'd have to figure out exactly what they are, but these all kind of make sense as gravity powers, right? With your gravity, you could either make your weapon heavier. So maybe this would make your weapon increase dies. Yeah, so like maybe it increases the die size. Maybe it grants it the heavy property. Maybe it makes it slam. Slam and cleave would be a bit hard to balance as a passive effect. Maybe a small area effect, just dealing like, a couple damage to something nearby, kind of like green flame blade. We probably want a bit smaller than that. The passive effects are usually not huge. Whirlwind attack would be way too much. Alright, and then time, we know the flare effect. We don't know what the passive effect is. Maybe makes you move faster. You slow down time or speed up your time or something. We don't know. I think we might limit defense just because most classes don't have an unlimited reaction. That might be limited to consuming one of your flare effects. And if it consumes one of your flare effects, then we buff it. If it's passive, then we don't need to buff it. So as long as Distort Shot, we don't want to make Distort Shot as good as Catch Projectile from a monk. So we don't want to go too crazy with it. I think we just want to maybe if it's an unlimited thing, we just want it to be disadvantaged on a shot. I think that's a fairly reasonable reaction. If it's redirect, then we want to put a limiter on it, right? So that's what the decision we're going to need to make. If we want the defensive effects to consume a flare, which I think we might, that's a consideration, then we'd want these to be much more powerful. If we want them to just be something you can always do, then we want to make them, something like minus 1d4 off a ranged attack roll. Yeah, so that's a question if we're going to give them all of attack, manifest, passive, defend, flare at once. I don't know yet. That would be giving you a fair amount of abilities at level 1. We might scale off how many of these modifiers you get at a time, so that you only get all 5 of them at... but we want to give you flare for free. The problem is if we take bullet catching away from monks will be sad. Monks don't have much going for them, so we don't want to steal their few precious things. If we give an Artificer stun and a bullet catching, then we've just deleted the monk class. That's all they got. Yeah, we'll figure out the details about what they get. Right now, I'm just kind of seeing, is this a good idea? I think I'm leaning towards yes. I don't think it's a slam dunk idea, but I think expanding this is going to give us more modularity. So if we let them choose, this way we can even add more modifiers if we want. If we let them choose, say, 3 modifier, or, passive plus flare plus 1, and then choose 2 runes or something. So I don't think we're going to do all this on stream. We might, but I don't know what the attack version of this looks like yet. I don't know what the manifest version of this looks like yet. I don't know what the defend version of this looks like yet. And then we have extra melee. 1 extra melee attack. Alright. But then what does the attack version of protection look like? Maybe we need to rename this rune as something else. Maybe the protection effect of this rune becomes something else. Maybe the protection effect of the rune becomes one of our other powers. Do we even need rune of protection now that we have this model? I don't think so. So there we go. Rune saved. I don't think Shield Bash is that's a feat. It doesn't really make sense for that to be a rune. Putting a rune of protection on your shield shouldn't necessarily make it better at bashing things. It should make your shield be a better shield, and you might be able to use your shield to bash things, but I don't know that a rune of protection would. Should you be able to... You could port the slow time one. I think we want to keep time and gravity separate. We might steal part of gravity's for time if that makes more sense. But so here's the idea. You said, how will it get medium armor proficiency? Here's the idea I had for that. So this is going back to the penciling part in. But what I wanted to do, and this might be madness, I don't know where we're going to put this. We'll just put this here for now. Shiny new idea. What I'm thinking about doing is that if you put your rune on armor or weapon, you have proficiency in that armor or weapon. If you put your rune on runic focus, you get attack modifier. If you put rune on self, you get cool thing I haven't thought of yet. So this would be, this would give us 2 kind of bonuses here. That we are giving you more control over how much of your, giving you a bit more control over how you want to build your subclass. And I think this makes some degree of sense. Rather than spending a rune on armor, you can just put that rune on armor and you have proficiency with it. Not sure that's correct yet. That might be too easy. We don't want to be too generous here. Especially if we're giving that many runes. Yeah, we're gonna have to put on all of these. These only apply to you for the most part. We do want to probably give some. We want to give some benefits to other people, but these ones here would all be you only. And I don't know about this idea. I think this is kind of ballparking out a little bit far, because I think this might be too much free stuff. We probably still want to make you spend a rune on... Yeah, I think this is too much free stuff. We might come back to this idea if we need it. We're going to put over here, shiny new idea. We're going to cross that out and call it tarnished new idea. Does it make it nicer that when you throw runes on other people's armor, you're not wasting the passive if they already have proficiency? Right, but we probably don't want to give other people armor proficiency. We don't want wizards running around in heavy armor or whatever. But I don't know, this is just an idea. I'll probably spend some time on this concept later. If you guys have input and thoughts, feel free to let me know. We might go this direction, it's just an idea. We might go this direction, it's just, it's an idea. I just wanted to kind of go through this process just so, A, you guys aren't surprised if you see something like this in the next version, when we add this to the expanded toolbox, and both to talk about kind of like how we iterate across making homebrew. We had a pretty good setup, but I think this one is also a pretty good setup. So we'll try it out. We'll see how it goes. If I still think it's a good idea once we've fleshed it out, well then we'll put the first effect on it. I guess I more meant Rune of Power on the fighter. Yeah, giving up the passive effects is maybe part of why you would not want to do that, though. So currently it just gives proficiency on the passive effect. So currently that you wouldn't be getting much benefit from the passive anyway. I did think you were going for 3 different subclasses. One that gives weapon prof, one that gives armor prof, one that gives... So, I mean, we're not going for 3 different subclasses, right? We're going for 3 different ways to build the subclass. These aren't different... When we have our archetypes up here, right? Right, these archetypes. These aren't intended to be different subclasses. They're just intended to be different branches of how to... they're just intended to be different branches of how you can build the subclass, right? If a subclass cannot create multiple archetypes, we're probably aiming too narrow. We never want to make a subclass that is overly prescriptive about what the player is playing. Okay, yeah. So, and I think we still are doing that, right? We don't want to lose sight of the fact that we want to do this. We also, if there's an opportunity where we allow them to mix and match a bit more between those characters, that's not a bad thing. As long as we can still build all 3 characters, we're happy. We just don't want to lose sight of being able to build that character. But if you could be a rune scribe that has some runes on as tattoos, or a rune knight that wears armor but primarily casts spells using your runic focus. I don't know that we think those are bad things. That degree of crossover could be a benefit, not necessarily a detriment. We just want to make sure that we can still support those 3 pillars. We don't necessarily need to make sure that those 3 pillars don't have any overlap. What I was wondering is if the shiny thing could be something that starts along one of the paths. Alright, so I mean that we at some point we might want to decide if this is a choice that you make, or if this is basically, is this a choice you make in the feature you take, or is this a choice you make in how you apply the runes? So my idea here was that you would get all of the options, but by how you spent your rune, you'd be making that choice implicitly. You know, I had a good idea for the 14th level ability yesterday, but I have no idea what it is now. I thought I had an idea for this, but I did not write it down anywhere, and it has completely slipped my mind. So we'll come back to that one if I remember what that is. Otherwise, we're going to have to replace whatever good idea I had with something that is not that same idea. I haven't been writing anything down for Rune Smith between streams. So sometimes I slip through the cracks on what was the grand idea I had and why that idea is no longer with me. One thing for 14th level could be making the manifest action as an attack. That would be significantly better for the caster than it would be for the other kinds. Unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. I think that would be a cool power, but I think that wouldn't be very good for the people that didn't use the attack very much. So one thing we might want to look at is we had down here these that were terrible. Not that were terrible, but they just weren't that interesting. Do we have a better idea for this yet? No, maybe. Whenever you flare. So one thing is, let's look at our flared effects. Do we have any flared effects that are that powerful? One thing I was thinking is we could give a flare for free at level either 11 or 14. So you could basically flare once for free. That's an idea. And the other thing I wanted to do today was go through this. We've been doing this a little bit at a time. But is there anything here? Let's just kind of all go through this together and see if there's anything from the old Runesmith that we really want in the new one. So, do we need a way for the Runesmith to make a find familiar? I think that idea almost entirely came from this picture where the tattoo is turning into a lizard. I don't think we need this, but if you guys have different thoughts, let me know. This one is too similar to Infuse Magic. We might want it, but it's basically just Infuse Magic. Amplify. No. Compounding, no. That's too strong. Channel Magic. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways we can make this work, but the question I guess we come down to is, does this really make sense as something the Rune Smith needs to have, right? We have a lot of classes that have familiars, but I think this is something that we can write a justification for why it happens. So channel magic, I don't know what its application is yet, but let's make a new bin over here, and let's call it salvage. Stuff from the old Rune Smith we might want. What was the problem with the original Rune Smith? People didn't like it. that was the problem. It was staggeringly unpopular. Not horribly so, but just not. It was the bottom of the barrel, so it's the one that gets rethought. So in more detail, the old Rune Smith was very complicated, particularly how this worked, right? You basically stacked up your runes to have small incremental benefits. It was mechanically well balanced, but as you often discover in 5e, anything that is mechanically well balanced is often too complicated. Because the more you balance by increment, the more fine-tuned your balance can be. But balancing by increment is... I don't know that it's fair to say people hate to think. I mean, that part of it is that you folks are going to accept a lot more complexity than many people. You people are the ones that are sitting in a stream about designing new Artificer subclasses. It's a bit of a self-selection. Obviously, I would fall into that category. I'm sitting here designing new Artificer subclasses. But anything that is hard to keep track of while playing is going to be trouble in 5e. We want to make sure the design can be a little bit complicated in how you make your character, but we want to reduce real-time calculation to basically 0. Anything that requires a calculator, that's out. Anything that requires an abacus, that's out still. Eldritch Markings. Eldritch Markings is the old version of Mage Armor for the Runic Mystic. Elemental Power, we've already done that. Glyph of Absorption. So do we want something like Glyph of Absorption? It was an area of effect, temporary hit point bubble that you could then detonate. So I kind of like Glyph of Absorption because it rewards clever thinking. When you're in it, you want people to be attacking into it, and then you want to lure the enemy into it to detonate it. So I think let's keep. At least I'm going to, you guys can tell me that you don't like it or you like it, but I'm going to pencil in Glyph of Absorption, as I think that fits into our zone control and our trap and our preparation pillars over here. Glyph of Absorption. Now we have a new Glyph of Absorption, which I obviously cannot spell. Let me cheat and grab it from over here, because copy and paste is how I know how to spell. Alright. Glyph of Fire, Glyph of Frost, Glyph of Gravity, Glyph of Nullification. This was a high level glyph. So Glyph of Nullification gave resistance to force damage and briefly cast Globe of Invulnerability. Basically was a small anti-magic zone. What do we think about Glyph of Nullification? Parrot effects, I don't think that really applies anymore. Rebounding force. This is just a straight buff. Reckless flare. I think this would be too strong in the current version. Ruin of deflection. I think this is going to get soaked into gravity, or the barrier one. We had a barrier glyph. I think that'll cover most of this. Ruin of ether. I don't know. Ruin of proficiency. We've already kind of covered this. Ruin resonance. Right, that's in compounding. This was previously to enable the runic tattoo. Runic tattoo used to be its own thing. Tattooed, so okay. So that's all we had there. None of the rest of this is related to Runesmith. So I think we are done our salvage operation. There's not much we're pulling out that we haven't already pulled out. Twin Flares was the 14th level previously. Twin Flare might be something we want to bring back. Twin Flare is a very powerful ability, but that might be something that we want to put in either the 11th or 14th level slot, because if we think about that kind of level, are we scaling into that level appropriately as is? I don't know. So let's put down Twin Flare as something we might want to pull out. Twin Flare or compounding. So remember, Twin Flare was the ability to flare 2 different runes. Compounding was the ability to flare all the runes of one type, or multiple runes of one type. I think compounding is pretty much dead because we don't have multiple runes of one type right now. The runes don't stack anymore. Not on the same creature anyway. So do we want Twin Flare as the 14th level ability, or is that too strong and it should be at the 11th level? I think that's our debate here. I really wish I could remember what the idea I had for 14th level was, because I assure you it was a great one. It was just the best idea. Could still have flaring multiple runes at the same time. Yeah, that's an option, Dire Avenger. But so I'm thinking what we might want to do is we might want to do a nerfed version of Twin Flare. So I'm thinking that when we do this Twin Flare, right? But only when you're consuming one of your bonus actions. So starting at 14th level, when you spend one of your bonus action uses, when you flare a rune as a bonus action, you can flare 2 runes. So the reason we want to do this is because now that we have builds that flare runes a lot more, we might not want to have those flares So should this eat 2 of your bonus action flares when you do this, or should we limit it to once per short rest, or are we fine doing neither? That's the question here. So how many bonus action flares do you have at this point? You only have 4 uses of your bonus action flare at 14th level, getting your 5th right at 15th level. I think we might be fine just letting you always do this at 15th level. Let's keep that in mind. You know, this might need a nerf. Yeah, I think this is just a straight buff to your bonus action flaring, though. Maybe we nerf this down a little bit later. Sorry, I'm reading. Oh, we give it 2 or 3 times per short or long rest. Yeah, we probably don't want to give that. So yeah, we'll make this burn 2 uses of the flare probably. Yeah. When you flare, you can expend 2 uses to. And I'll see you in a little bit, Dire Avenger. Hopefully we are still going by the time you get back. We'll be going for a bit more here. Not too long, but I at least want to finish fleshing out the basics of Rune Smith. You can expend 2 uses to flare 2 different runes at the same time. I think we'll go with this just because it lets you chew through your short rest uses a bit faster, and that's fine, I think. At that level, you know, fights tend to be bigger and longer. Okay, so we have our 14th level. We might revisit this if we have a better idea or remember what I thought of previously. Used. Oh, and I think I have. Yes, this is the art that'll probably adorn Rune Smith. This is probably not going to be a surprise to anyone that we have a dwarf Rune Smith, but I think he's very far down the Rune Ignite path. We'll see what if we use more than that, but I think that's what we got back from our artist so far. So I think that's I need to put it up on Imager to port into GM Binders. We won't add to the document quite yet, but I had that there, so I figured I'd share ahead what we're going to look like. And the other thing I think we currently only have is the hammer-wielding dwarf on the patron header for Cursesmith. I think the hammer-wielding dwarf was actually for crafting document. I was going to use it as the header. I think I used it as the header for the crafting. It'll probably show up other places just because I don't have unlimited amounts of art, so I will have to reuse what I can. Tuxok, I have no idea how to say your name correctly. You can always send me images. I can't use most images. For the most part, I can only use images that either are mine, like that one, which is not, I didn't draw it, but I paid for it, or that are Wizards of the Coast official images. Because you can use those under the fan content policy as long as you're not selling it. But this, we also need to consider what other 15th level upgrades. We need some more high level upgrades, and we need some more 11th level upgrades. Are there high level spells we want to use? Or are there more powerful effects we want to bring up in the 15th level? We can always go back to the Artificer and look at some of the 15th level abilities from other subclasses. What are they doing that is interesting? Sure, Delayed Blast Fireball. What is Delayed Blast? It's what, 7th level? Delayed Blast Fireball. Yeah, I mean, the 7th level isn't too high. No, it is not 9th. 9th is Meteor Swarm for fire destruction. I'm actually not even sure why it's 7th. I mean, obviously because the damage is high. That's a strangely high level for this spell. What does this do that is so strong? Yeah, I think we can give this. So, we go back here, 15th level. Do we want this to be a glyph? No, I think we just have it be a special thing. As is usual, I have no idea what to name it, so we will call it that for now. I don't think we need to do anything special here. I think we just give them Delayed Blast Fireball once per long rest. It already has a bunch of mechanics attached to it. We don't really need to add more mechanics. I'm just looking at how the Gadgetsmith does it. You can cast Delayed Blast Fireball. Glyph of the Warden. Placed on an area, gives an alarm. Warden spirits can be given one simple order. So it's kind of like alarm plus Unseen Servant. Faithful Hound. Alright, what is Faithful Hound? Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound. It's 4th level. Conjure, Watchdog. Hound is invisible to all creatures and can't be harmed when a small creature. It ignores illusions. It also does a lot of damage. At the start of each of your turns, within 5 feet of it. Yeah, but can it move? That's the question. It can't move, right? That makes it fairly limited. I'm not seeing where it can move at all. Can it move within the 100 feet area? Because it says, at the start of each turn, the Hound attempts to bite one creature within 5 feet of it. But nowhere does it actually give... Because it disappears if you move within 100 feet. But I think it's just one spot, and it doesn't move at all within that spot. Which probably is why this spell is not super popular. Yeah. I was reading this and thinking that I need to pick this spell more often, but I think I see the problem with it. It doesn't move. So I mean, we want this. This could work. We might just use this spell. This seems like fine for a Runesmith. It kind of gives you the alarm effect. I think he was suggesting we make a new spell that works similar to this, but that might be overkill because that's a fairly bit But maybe we do, because let's look at what Alarm actually does. Alarm is a spell that gets used all the time, but we're still good to look at the exact same wording. You set an alarm against unwitting intrusion. Choose a door, window, or window, or an area within range is no longer than a 20-foot cube. You designate creatures. So we basically have a couple options. We can give them alarm, we can give them a buffed alarm, or we can give them a faithful hound. Yeah, I think that both these would kind of do that. Faithful Hound is a watchdog, literally. It gives you basically a 30-foot warning. It starts barking. Alarm, when something comes within the 20-foot cube, it goes off. And Leomon's, I know what Leomon's does. It's just an impassable hut. Catching up on chat here. So the question becomes, do we want to use some combination of these spells, or do we want to write our own thing? I'm thinking we sort of want to write our own thing. I don't like writing my own thing because it makes new mechanics that are a struggle to balance, but I'm not quite seeing exactly what we want. I think we can take part of Alarm. Glyph of Sanctuary, this is fine, but it's going to kind of overlap with what we want to do here. We probably want, so my thought here is that we probably want this to be a pretty low level effect, because that's when this is most useful. By the time parties are into tier 3, tier 4, you know, they don't care about their camp security very much. They're summoning demi-planes and crap. But in low levels, you're just trying to stop the wolves from sneaking into your camp and eating you in your sleep, because surprise rounds suck. So we probably want this in either unrestricted or 5th level. Let's put it here for now. Glyph of safe, sleepy place. Obviously that's not what we're going to call it. So Prax called it Glyph of the Warden. The Warden's kind of an odd name for the glyph. I guess that's supposed to be for the guardian spirit. That's fine. I don't know if we want to tie this to a spirit so much. Where are those spirits coming from? That doesn't necessarily seem like a Rune Smith thing as much. I guess Unseen Servant is an arcane spell, so you can have something like that. But Unseen Servants don't actually do anything. That's like a 2nd level spell. So this one we probably want to take more than an action. We don't want this to be used in combat. I'm almost thinking we might want to use a different moniker than Glyph for this. If we've kind of set up the expectation that glyphs are an action that you can use in combat, we might want to call this something else. That said, we've kind of stolen the Warden glyph from Glyph of Warding, and Glyph of Warding is kind of like what we're trying to do here. Sure, let's go with Sigil. What does Sigil actually mean? Sure, let's go with Sigil for now. I'm trying to think of something that's more like a more permanent sigil. I actually don't know how to say that word. I read that word a bunch, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard someone say that word in real life to know how it's pronounced. Sigil? Sigil, I think, is how I pronounce it, but I don't know. The City of Portals. Okay. Now I'm going to think about how I pronounce it too much and pronounce it wrong to be sure. But let's go with that. You guys are going to have to go to one of the many good lore channels out there for more information on the location called Sigil and its famous inhabitants. It is definitely an interesting one, but I am not the person to give the full rundown of it. I actually know kind of the basic 5e and Forgotten Realms lore decently well, but I have butchered it so heavily over the years into what I've incorporated into my own stuff and what I haven't, that where exactly the official stuff ends and the crazy stuff that I've come up with over the years begins, I don't really know anymore. So I would never speak with any sort of authority on that. There's, for lore, I guess there's a YouTuber called AJ Pickett. He is, not the biggest lore YouTuber, but he goes in depth on those things. He's the one I'd recommend if you want to explore the great depths of any particular lore. He's got literally hundreds of videos. The guy is very in depth. Alright, Sigil of Safety. See, that has alliteration. Let's go with that. As a ritual, it takes a minute. You can set up a special sigil that protects an area from intrusion. So I'm thinking about some low-level effects that might be balanced around this. I like the idea that I saw, I think Prax had, that there's a kind of a preset option. So the sigil alerts you when something enters the area. We'll come up with the area, and you can select one of the following triggered properties. So for these, one idea would be enemies within the area get a penalty to their initiative. That's an idea. Basically, it helps you against if they decide to fight in your area, maybe you get a bonus. Do we want to do the Unseen Guardians idea? That might be an idea. I'm a little bit torn on that one because it seems like it's a little too good for the level we want to do this at. Not necessarily, I guess it's just too good. It seems like too arcane, too powerful Because you're essentially creating unseen servants. They are better than unseen servants. That might be too good. Unseen servant. Let's actually look up unseen servant. Shapeless, 10 AC, 1 hit point. Interact and perform. So what was... An unseen servant can't probably grapple an enemy. What's their weight limit? I guess strength of 2 would be what prevents them from grappling. Because otherwise, best I can tell, these things can actually grapple. Yeah, I think we'll punt on this particular aspect of it for now. We do want more effects here, but I don't know what they are yet. Is there anything else we want to do under the sigil moniker, though? So we have this idea. The main issue with grappling with 2 strength isn't necessarily the carry weight. It's that they'd have -4 to the roll. I guess they could technically grapple. Summons an unseen servant with initiative 20. I don't know, something like that. We can pencil it in, we can get around to it later, as far as if that's a good idea or not. Alright, and if we have any other ideas here, and then the other, do we have any other sigils we want to do? Now that we've come up with this new idea, which is to say, there's other rituals. Let's probably 10 minutes. Let's make this actually take like a ritual time. It takes 10 minutes to set up. Do we have anything else we want to do under that same tag? I'm not sure yet, but if you guys have any ideas of other sigils. Sigil of teleportation. Oh, let's see, what level is Circle of Teleportation? Circle of Teleportation Circle. I don't remember what it's called. I don't think Teleportation Circle is that high. Yeah, 5th. 5th is pretty high, but not too high for us to give them. So in this case, it'll be here. Did I spell that wrong? I did not. It just doesn't like that. Then we take this, we put it here. We take this, we put it here. So this is one that your party probably won't want if you already have other ways of teleporting. but if you don't have other ways of teleporting, maybe you want it. At 11th level, this isn't going to be anything novel. You are getting it early for a half caster, but not significantly. Significantly early for a half caster, but you're not getting it significantly early for a full caster. A full caster gets 5th level spells at 9th level? So you're still getting behind a full caster. And you are still having, you do get it without a spell slot because you don't have a spell slot at the 5th level to expend, so we couldn't make you expend a spell slot on it. Alright, do we have anything else we want to use under the sigil banner? If you guys come up with any other ideas for now, we'll put them here. We can even look at the spell list at some point. Let's see, how do we search this? Game rules, spells, view all. If we look at just, let's see, 5th through 7th, those are the kind of spells you could possibly give from Wizard. Is there anything else we want to give? Not necessarily. I'm just saying if there's anything here that we look at this and think it must be a rune contingency, right? We were going to give that. Cloud kill. We could. I mean, I don't know if there's a I don't know if there's a compelling reason that Rune Smith has cloud kill. We can always write a reason for it. Acid fog is not a thing in 5e. Instant summons. I think we've discussed this, but we don't like it. Fog Cloud is still a spell. Acid Fog is not. Fog Cloud is a 1st level spell. I think Acid Fog was a bigger version of. Tuxlock was asking about Cloud Kill or the higher level version Acid Fog, and I think Cloud Kill is now the higher level version. I think that might be a spell we might want to create for a cultist or something. I don't know if that we need a higher level Cloud Kill for this. Cloud Kill might be a good sort of trap. We do want more traps, and Cloud Kill is a pretty good trap. So that's worth considering. Sure, you guys have halfway convinced me. We'll at least open up Cloud Kill. Would we want to make minion runes from last time's sigils? That's probably a good idea. Forest Cage Trap. So, Forest Cage is one of those that we are not giving to Rune Smith, probably. Forest Cage Trap is absolutely a thematic idea, absolutely a good idea, but absolutely not something we're giving to Rune Smith. Forest Cage is just too strong. It's one of those, it's not even that high level spell comparatively, but it's one of a wizard's auto-win spells. And if we're starting to give off the parts about being a wizard that is actually the strongest, we have to be really careful. Even if we make it so it's considerably weaker than Forest Cage by making it you have to step on it, that we're going down a dangerous path there. Freezing Sphere, that's just a blast. Globe of Invulnerability, we might want to do that. Yeah, Wall of Force is already a pretty powerful one. The difference between Wall of Force and Force Cage, I remember, is that Wall of Force you can't teleport out of. Force Cage you can. Speaking of Wall of Force, I can show you guys something that is going to come up soon. These are some feats that I've been playing with. Little bit silly ones for very high level fighters and rogues. And one of them is to give you the ability to use your strength to break through things like Wall of Force and Force Cage. I don't know if these will go anywhere. I'll probably post them at some point. But it's an idea I've been toying with for a while. Just because there's always been a problem with the disparity between top level fighters and rogues versus top level wizards, that no matter how strong a fighter is, as far as trying to do damage, high level fighters and stuff that should be akin to gods can easily be locked in a small cage because they don't have any sort of defenses against that sort of thing. So these are some ideas that I've been playing around with. Obviously, they're not for all games, but we'll probably see an iteration of these. Go to Reddit, and Reddit can tell me how much they hate them. Something like this. Some people might have already seen this because I think I showed this around to a few people. But I just thought of this because of the way to use your strength to break through Force Cage and Wall of Force. These are also things I guess DMs could give to super high level godlike enemies. Just to, you know, really rain on the player's parade occasionally, but also for players that want to be able to actually fight with wizards. It's an idea. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled show. We know that we want contingency. Maybe we want Globe of Invulnerability. So let's go up here. Potential upgrades. So we already had contingency here somewhere, I believe. Contingency, yes. We already had contingency. So let's grab contingency. And we are going to wrap up in just a few minutes here, so that's why I'm kind of putting these things down on the idea for later's pile. It's already been an hour and a half. Time flies so fast when we're all having fun, doesn't it? Globe of Invulnerability. Cloud Kill. Trap. And then did we want to do anything with instant summons? No, we might want to do a weaker version of this. Instant summon bond item. Basically something you put a rune of ownership on, Glyph of Ownership. Glyph Ownership. Alright. Was there anything else you want to pull from this list? Plane shift, planar binding, pass wall. Maybe some sort of glyph you put on a wall that allows you to go through it. That might be something. But I think pass wall is already something on the Artificer list. If we go here, we look at our spell list. Yeah, we already get pass wall, so That's unlikely to be a thing we need. Sword, no. Pass wall, we already talked about. Planar binding, probably not. Scrying, scatter. Symbol. No, that's, I think this is a... Well, this might be something. 7th level, though, that's pretty high. What are you guys' thoughts on the symbol spell? Stunned for 1 minute, that's pretty exciting. I think we'll put this in our category of maybe ideas. Yeah, it's basically a stronger Glyph of Warding. We already give him Glyph of Warding at... we already give him Glyph of Warding, let's see it, 11th level, or 9th level, where do we give him Glyph of Warding? Yeah, we already give them that here, so maybe a 15th level. Symbol, 15th level. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to pause for now. So sort of been going for our hour and a half. Rune of Velocity, I see a new idea here, just as we're going to wrap up. Ranged. Oh, you got a whole bunch of ideas here. You've been prepping for this, haven't you? Are these in the suggestion box? Since we're going to be wrapping up, I'm going to copy these over for now. I'll put them in a new heading here. It's fine. I'll grab them here. Yeah, that's fine, Sengem. Go ahead and put a link to your stream. Just drop it in chat. I don't know how to do any sort of hosting things, so I don't know if I can offer that, but definitely feel free to pop up any mentions of things to do next here. So yeah, Prax, I'll record those here. You don't need to put them in the suggestion box. While we have a second here, I guess let's go through these. Rune of Velocity, range weapon or creature, 2 times range, flare railgun. That sounds too cool to be a thing that is balanced. Whenever you have something, you're like, well, that's a thing that we're obviously going to be doing. You always have to worry that you've gone too far. I'm not saying it's a bad one. I haven't actually read it yet. I'm just saying as soon as I get to the effect there, sounds too good. Shots fire through full cover. That is probably mechanically fine, but it's thematically challenging because you have to wonder what that full cover is and what the condition of that full cover is after you shoot through it, because this might break down into what your full cover is. We actually do, I guess, I mean, there is actually something that does this in I think Thundersmith. I don't know how Thundersmiths work. I might just ignore all those problems, so. Maybe it's in the expanded toolbox. I think it must be in the expanded toolbox. We have something like that. We can compare and contrast to that, though. Rune of Volley targets a set of ammunition. Each shot can make 2 attacks with -2 to hit and separate targets. Flare to convert to a 10-foot radius. Both these are interesting ideas. Both of them are things I have some concern on the balance of. That's always what we're here to tweak. Volley is almost exactly the Ranger 11 ability, so we'd be a little bit careful with that. The Rangers don't have much, so we don't want to steal their thunder too well. But there is something we can do with that. There's also the spell Conjure Volley. Conjure Volley. I don't remember exactly what it does. It's not something that gets used a lot. Yeah, okay, this is way too high level. I think this is a Ranger only AoE cone. And Strange and Oath of Heroism. I have no idea why Oath of Heroism has this. Yeah, this is something that we could maybe do, but would not be applicable to an actual rune. But both those ideas that I think we can work with, we'll have something. I guess the last thing before we wrap up is to remind you guys to submit ideas of what to do next. So I will probably, what's going to happen now is we've been doing the Rune Smith for, let's see, 6 streams now. This is, I think, the 6th. I think we've got a lot of ideas. I think we've mined out many creative ideas from chat here as we've come up with stuff and we've gone through the process. I'll probably take this and I'll fiddle with it a bit to be, I'll fiddle with this a bit, just to see what our options are, like we did with this this idea down here, just to see if there's another idea that covers the same ground that I like better, or is more streamlined or gives us more options, stuff like that. And then I'll add it to the expanded toolbox. But that means that next Tuesday, we're going to be working on, I might show whatever I come up with, but we probably won't be working on it for another full day. So this is pretty much the last chance to put in any ideas for what we're going to work on next. I'll probably put up a poll near the end of today on Patreon. Some ideas that I'm going to be working on soon. I'm going to be working on a Warlord subclass. That's one of the options we could be doing. We could always do one of the Sonic subclasses that we know we need to do, one of the outstanding ones. We have Nomad. We have the Scion, the kinetic one. Kinetic word I can't say one. So assign our Warlord subclass that will kind of complete the trio. We can always tackle feats or something here. I'll put up a survey. I'll be working on all of these things, but I guess just the idea just to see which one I'll do on stream. But I think that's all. So I will end the stream here. And I'll see you all next time on Tuesday. If you do have thoughts on the time, always feel free to vote in that poll. There's a poll up on the Patreon, but it's public to everyone. Alright, see you on Tuesday. I'll be in the chat and Discord for a second to keep talking, but I'm going to go ahead and end the stream.